is my story that I wrote, so I hope you like it. Another year has come to a close, and I couldn't be more sad. Just kidding! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all my non-binary and gender-fluid friends, it is my honor, my blessing, my privilege to invite you to the most wonderful show of the year! That's right. You know what time it is. You and I have a date right in front of your screens as I host the annual Hero Billboard Chart JP! I'm super excited and a little nervous to be your MC on live television, so please cheer me on as we ring in the new year with a new class of heroes who you voted to be your top 10. See you soon. Music fade, music fade, music fade, and... Cut! Oh, thank God. You felt yourself deflate at your agent's words, letting out a breath you didn't even know you were holding until you felt the air rush out of your lungs. You've been up since 4 a.m. in full hair and costume, shooting for the past 6 hours for a promo that would only air on TV for 30 seconds. Did such a time frame seem like intense overkill? Yes, of course! But that's how your agent operated. If Sun Tai-hee wasn't nitpicking at 30 seconds of footage for 6 hours, then she was pushing for the entire crew to produce 6 hours worth of work in 30 seconds. You see, the thing is, as the most iconic triple-threat fashion designer, photographer, and director in Musutafu, she could afford to do that. And now, she had the newly acquired title of agent after snatching you up as her one and only client in over 20 years. Sun Tai-hee was nearly unstoppable, and anyone else who couldn't keep up, well, they were simply in her way. Mediocre model! Speaking of which, you looked up. No, down at the mini maven in question as she scowled from behind the viewfinder of some poor cameraman's video camera. Tell me something, mediocre model. Are you a wet chihuahua? Sun said. You stared at the woman while Sun waited politely for you to answer. No, ma'am. Then tell me, why is it the audience can see your jelly legs shivering in the frame? The entire take is completely useless because it's so out of focus. I'm sorry. I tried not to. All right, everyone, take a 30-second break and we'll take it from the top. There was a flustered "Thank you, 30" from the crew as they hustled to their positions, followed by a sharp "Wait!" The entire crew paused, a thick silence falling over the studio. The only sound came over the low hum of the production team's computer fans and the clatter of a makeup artist's liquid eyeliner as the tube fell to the concrete floor. No one, and I mean no one, cuts off Sun Tai-hee. And no one tells her to wait. Sun whirled around wildly to spot the person responsible for speaking out of turn. Your and everyone else in the building's eyes followed Sun's. The culprit of the heinous crime was none other than the aforementioned poor cameraman, who seemed to have immediately regretted his decision to speak. He was now fumbling with the hem of his sweater to avoid making eye contact with the woman whose enraged pupils were only further magnified by her thick glasses. You. The woman motioned for the lanky man to squat down until he was eye level with her tiny frame. There was something about the brown pile of floof on his head as it lowered itself to the floor that was oddly familiar. Are you the director of the shoot? No, ma'am. Are you in charge of anyone in this building? No, ma'am. It was odd watching a 6-foot-tall, 20-something-year-old man get publicly ridiculed by a 4.5-foot-year-old woman. You would think Sun Tai-hee would be the child in this situation. But one look at the way this man hung his head and sheepishly bit his lip clearly said otherwise. So, tell me, what in your mind made you think you had the right to stop an entire production with a budget that's almost as high as the number of times you've rammed your head into a ceiling fan? Osegana kikilin! You watched in awe as the man threw himself to the floor in a low bow. I didn't mean to be disrespectful, Miss Sun Tai-hee. Just... His voice faltered as he realized for the first time that he was being watched by the entire studio. He fumbled to his feet and, to your surprise, looked directly at you. Now that you were facing each other, you could see his soft features. The way his cheeks flushed when he looked at you. Or how he could never stay still as he fiddled with his clothes that were so big they seemed to swallow him. And that unruly chestnut hair with fluffy curls that took over his scalp with just enough courtesy to let his honey brown eyes peek through. You swore you knew this man from somewhere. He seemed so familiar, but you just couldn't put your finger on it. He continued in a shyer, much quieter voice. I noticed the first few takes that the focus was going in and out, so I adjusted the settings on the lens locked on you. I can, He stumbled as he tried to face Sun Tai-hee again, nearly knocking over his camera in the process. He dove forward to catch the expensive piece of equipment, grabbing it before it went crashing towards the floor. He continued, as he got his bearings once more. I can show you the footage I have on the viewfinder. It's not blurry at all, and the angle's actually really flattering. And if we pair it with the shots from camera 5 in post-production, then I think we actually have the shots we need and don't need to shoot again. His voice trailed into a low mumble as he once again turned his gaze towards the floor and tugged at his sweater. There was a beat as Sun Tai-hee eyed the boy before snapping her fingers. An assistant was by her side in seconds, setting down a step stool for her to climb on to look at the camera screen. She watched the footage in silence. The entire studio held their breath as they waited for her response. After a few minutes, she spoke. You. What's your name? Shima Fukuro, ma'am. And what is it exactly that you do? I, run camera 2. Another beat passed, until finally, Sun let out a low, followed by something you'd never thought you'd witness. Not bad. Alright, that's a wrap. Pack up your things and have the studio cleared in 15. Post. Do the cleaning up thing the child talked about, and have it sent to all streaming services and studio networks before noon. We need this promo on everyone's screen by prime time tonight. The crew was still frozen, eyes wide and locked on the woman as if she had just grown a set of antennae out of her head. She'd never praised a staff member like that, especially who'd spoken to her out of term. Not just that, someone who'd stopped the entire production to give their 2 cents. But your eyes were wider than anyone else's in the room. That name. Now you knew why he looked so familiar. Shima Fukuro. You'd gone to high school with the boy. Excuse me! Sun Tai-hee's voice snapped you out of your thoughts. Was I not speaking fluent Japanese? Did you all miss the part where I said to pack up? The crew snapped out of their daze. A chorus of "Yes, ma'am!" echoing through the studio, as they immediately scurried to collect their gear and get out of Dodge. You, on the other hand, found yourself weaving through the crowd to get to your old classmate. "Kudo!" you called. The boy jumped where he stood, wrapping up a set of cables and struggling to steady himself to avoid tripping. He looked left, then right, then behind him, before turning back to face you and pointing at himself. Me? "I hope so," you said, stopping once you were in front of him. "Otherwise, this would be really awkward, talking to a person I thought I knew from high school, only for them to be someone completely different. Either that, or you don't remember me." "Huh? No, never!" "I honestly didn't think you remember me. That's why I didn't say anything before." "What? That's impossible! You may have shot up like a beanstalk, but you still have the same facial features from high school. And I could point out that floof on your head clear across Musutafu." Kudo smiled, sheepishly packing up the cords along with the rest of his equipment in a trunk and throwing on a beanie, pulling it low to contain his locks. "That's really impressive coming from a big-name star like you. I mean, you were practically radiating with confidence up there." You chuckled. "Big-name star? Radiating confidence? You must be talking about someone else, because I definitely was ready to throw up at any moment. I mean, you heard Suntai. I was literally shaking in my boots. The confidence usually doesn't come until afterwards. Thank you, by the way, for doing the whole stabilizing thingy. You really are a lifesaver, and frankly, I wasn't sure I had another take in me." "Oh, yeah, anytime. I'm just doing my job." "Yeah." You trailed off. "Speaking of jobs, what are you doing here, cameraman number 2? I haven't seen you since high school, and suddenly here you are, crawling out of the woodworks." "Right, Kudo returned his gaze to the floor. "After high school, I left Japan for a fresh start and went to study film in Korea, and I just recently moved back last month after Ji-chan passed." You felt your shoulders drop as you took in what he said. You could understand why Kudo wanted to start over after high school. He was a timid boy without a quirk who had been awkward in his own body, which made him an easy target for school bullies. They were ruthless and frequently sent him home crying. No one wanted to associate themselves with him in fear of getting harassed simply for being near him. As a result, he would frequently be found talking to himself. You found yourself jumping in to protect him and tell the punks to piss off. Fuck what other people thought. He was a good kid, and you couldn't stand to see anyone get hurt like that. You recalled that he lived with his grandparents. So to hear about his grandfather... I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, thank you. Anyway, I should get going. I know you've probably got a lot of stuff lined up, and I don't want to keep you waiting. Kudo smiled at the ground, awkwardly rubbing the nape of his neck as he spoke. I really don't. Those online gossip forums make me out to be way more popular than I actually am. And half the time, they don't even mention my name. I'm just mystery model online and mediocre model on set. I have plenty of time if you want to grab a coffee and... As if on cue, you felt your phone vibrate in your pocket. You pulled it out to see the words chicken nugget and a text message flash across your screen. You unlocked it to view its contents. Hey, doll. There's a car picking you up from the studio now. Let's do lunch. Now it was your turn to flash a sheepish smile. Actually, Something just came up and I have to leave. Right now. But here, let's exchange numbers and we can catch up another time. You swiftly swiped away from the text and opened your phone book for him to enter his contact, holding out your hand for his phone so you could do the same. Once contact information was exchanged, you quickly grabbed your coat and waved a friendly goodbye as you headed out the door. Just who the fuck did this man think he was? Not Fukuro. I'm talking Hawks. You know, weak-ass 4-piece chicken nugget combo with a side of little bitch. Yeah, that Hawks. Anyway, as I was saying, just who did that man think he was? And more importantly, who did he think you were? You can't just hop in a car and ride out to wherever the hell he was like some kind of groupie. You had other priorities. Okay, well, no, you didn't. But you could have. And he shouldn't expect you to just drop what you're doing whenever he wants and head across town at top speeds to see him. And yet, why were you in the back seat of a Bugatti doing just that? Shit.
Hey, look who finally made it.
Noodle 57 was a tiny ramen bar tucked into the corner of the Musutafu shopping district. It could easily be overlooked to the naked eye, but you were accustomed to locations like this. You see, Hawks had been periodically inviting you on these random food outings for the past couple of months now. Each time it was in some awkwardly placed restaurant no one could find without hiring a private investigator. Takami, why did you drag me here? You stalked your way into the restaurant, pausing to give the nice old man at the counter a respectful bow, before heading to the table to meet the man in question. Oh, yeah. That was another thing. You don't remember when exactly, but he'd started telling you to call him Takami now. So, Takami flashed you a childish grin as he set down his menu and gestured around him.
This is my favorite restaurant to visit during the winter. Ino-sama's ramen is the best in all of Musutafu, hands down, and the portions are so big you could feed the entire Pro Heroes Association.
Or just you, you quipped.
More like 1.5 of me. I'm watching my figure. He winked, as the same old man who you assumed to be Hino-sama set down 2 bowls of piping hot noodles. You thanked the man as he strolled his way back to the kitchen. You eyed the fishbowl-sized vessel that housed your noodles with slight intimidation. Takami was right. This was enough to feed the entire HA. But it looked so good. And after 6 hours of stealing nibbles from whatever was on the craft table, having a giant bowl of actual food all to yourself was a pleasant sight. Was that why he'd ordered for both of you before you arrived? So a hot bowl of food would be there the moment you sat down?
No, this was Hawks we're talking about. He probably just couldn't wait to start stuffing his face. Takami pulled his phone out and slid it across the table. On the screen was you, less than an hour ago, on stage running lines. How did you get—
I know some people.
Who? You countered. Hyungji? She's been in France on vacation with her girlfriend for the past 2 weeks.
I said people, meaning more than one. Anyway, it's the raw footage from the promo. I gotta say, I'm impressed, doll. It seems like only yesterday I was watching you on the set of Quick and Chicken stumbling over your lines for a 4-piece chicken nugget combo with fries and a Christmas cake. And look at you now, working under Sunny yourself and emceeing the Hero Billboard chart JP. I don't know if I can share the stage with you on Saturday. I might get nervous. You'll have to hold my hand.
You waved off his cheeky comment in the hand he'd offered, littered with faded scars, sliding the phone back to the middle.
I still stutter over my lines, you stated, cracking your chopsticks and finally digging into the noodles. It took me 6 hours just to get that right. And then Sun pointed out how I basically had noodle legs the entire time and threatened to start the whole shoot again.
Takami snorted.
What? You mean your takes weren't up to Sunny's completely reasonable standards? I'm afraid not, winged hero, you quipped. Takami hummed, settling into the silence of the empty restaurant as the short clip looped quietly in the background. I honestly can't see why. You're practically radiating confidence in this shot. I mean, look at the way you rolled your tongue here at privilege. He paused for a second, before casually stating, Makes me wonder what else that tongue can do.
Takami's head was already out of the way as a mouthful of broth and wet noodles flew by. He eyed the wall behind him, where a portion of your soup had claimed its new home in the form of a giant splat. Huh. I think that's a new record.
Could you stop making me do that?
Huh? I didn't make you do anything. Takami shrugged innocently, but the smug grin he was struggling to hold back said otherwise. I was just simply asking questions. Very important. Possibly testable questions.
Takami!
Aye, Captain. Shutting up now, Captain. Content that you had temporarily shut down the bird child, you used the resumed silence to fully enjoy the rest of your noodles that you'd managed to not plaster on the wall. Your silence was short-lived, however, interrupted by the rhythmic vibrations of Hawk's phone. Your eyes flickered towards the screen, only to see him pocket it with a sleight of hand.
Sorry, doll, Hawk said, standing from the table.
Duty calls.
Wait, what? You just got here!
He paused, allowing a slow smirk to creep over his face as he leaned down until he was eye level with you, muttering, What? Don't tell me you're gonna miss me, doll.
God, he was so close.
A few strands of his hair tickled your face. He smelled like strawberry syrup, the kind from those cheap marble sodas you could get from the 24-hour convenience store. You still drank those? You squished your eyes shut as he gave your hair a ruffle, and by the time you opened them again, he was gone, leaving nothing but a pile of cash in the front counter. Way more than was needed to cover the meal. Hino-sama didn't seem fazed by this at all. In fact, as you two caught each other's gazes from across the room, you could have sworn you saw a speck of pity in his eyes. You felt sick. The sick feeling in your stomach stayed with you all day. It followed you on the train back to your apartment, and lingered as you sat on the couch. Its claws gripped onto your shoulders and pulled you deeper into the cushions, its hot, putrid breath clouding your vision and introducing a brain fog so thick you couldn't bring yourself to focus on the television screen in front of you. You didn't get it. No, wait, you got it, but you didn't get it. 'Cause, Hawks is a pro hero, and pro heroes are very busy. Cool, you got that. But if he was so busy, then why even bother asking you out on a date in the first place? No, not even asking. Taking. As in, interrupting your day and bussing you off to some hole-in-the-wall ramen shop. And no, not a date. He called it doing lunch. Just who does he think you are? Some wealthy stockbroker looking to invest into his agency? And just why the hell are you two doing lunch on a Monday morning? That's literally the the least busy time at any restaurant, where no one would see the two of you together. Ah, damn it, no! Because, see, you weren't getting it again. No, wait, you got it, but you didn't want to get it. But now there was the added layer of why you didn't want to get it. Because what was the big deal anyway? Just 6 months ago, you couldn't stand Hawks. Catching sight of him on set and knowing that you two were going to be working together for the next 8 hours would make your stomach lurch. So why is it now that seeing him take off so suddenly gave you the same feeling? Why didn't he want to be seen with you? What was so bad about you? Your phone vibrated, snapping you out of your thoughts. You half hoped it was Takami offering for a redo. Maybe a more public location at a reasonable time. Maybe you'd both dress up and he'd stay the whole time and... It wasn't Takami. Instead of seeing the words chicken nugget flash across your screen, you saw a name you almost didn't recognize. Shima Fukuro. Hi, the text read. I hope I'm not sending this to you at an odd time. I know it's pretty late. I wanted to ask a favor. I was going through my grandpa's old things and found an old video camera of his. It's super retro. It still takes cassettes and everything. This might be a reach, but I was wondering if I could do a few test shots with you next Tuesday. A couple of hours before the shoot. Attached to the message was a picture of Kuro, with what you assumed to be the camera he was talking about. The picture was so dorky, you couldn't help but laugh. Whatever artistic eye he had when it came to shooting others went out the window when it came to shooting himself. There was no posing or direction to his body. He just awkwardly stood there in his oversized knit sweater, hiding behind his floof and holding the camera like he was in a 90s Christmas photo shoot. And that smile. Jeez, that cheesy smile. It looked so bad. So innocently vulnerable and awkward that you would be out of your mind not to agree to his request. You typed up a response. Yeah, sure. I'd love to be your muse for a few hours. Not even a minute passed before your phone buzzed and a new message popped up on your screen. Whoa, really? That'd be so lol. Sorry, typo. I meant cool. That'd be so cool. You snorted as you typed. Hopefully your videography skills are better than your spelling. No promises, Kuro quipped. Anyway, I don't want to keep you up too late. I know you had an early wake-up this morning, and I want you to get some rest. Night. You sent back a quick, good night, in response, and prepared to set your phone down, when you felt it vibrate once more. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say that it was great seeing you today. This industry is pretty cutthroat, so it was really nice seeing a friendly face, and when you said you remembered my name, you have no idea how much that made my day. Anyway, I said I was gonna let you go to bed, so... Good night again. Yeah. You felt your face heat up at the last text. You'd never received something like that. And the way he signed the text with a little owl emoji caused you to smile without even realizing it. You two had barely spoken before you had to rush off, but he still felt compelled to let you know how much he appreciated spending time with you. That was way more than Hawks ever did. It was odd. But something as simple as that
was enough to cause some of that sick feeling from earlier to dissipate.
Don't scream.
If you do, we'll beat you up after school, too. Iko, who's he gonna scream to anyway? His dad's not around, and especially not his mom.
Hey, Mom! Mom, wake up!
Wake up! Wake up!
Wake up! Shima Mayu jumped back in shock as her grandson shot up in his childhood bed. He whirled around, gasping for air, eyes wide in panic, before they settled on his grandmother.
Baba, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Kuro-chan? How many times do I have to tell you? It's fine. The woman dusted off her purple smock and smiled. You mentioned having an early wake-up this morning, and I wanted to make sure you had plenty to eat before you went about your day. Son. The boy gave a rather childish yawn as he wiped the sleep from his eyes. The counselor said you should be getting more rest. I can wake up on my own. Nonsense, she quipped. That's exactly what your grandfather said, and guess who woke him up every morning with a hot meal every day of the 53 years we were married? Fukuro slid himself out of the quilted comforter and swung his legs out of the bed. Thank you. I really appreciate it. But I can honestly grab something from the set. I don't need... A hand pressed on his chest, hard enough to keep Fukuro from standing. You need meat on your bones and therefore meat in your stomach. There is grilled salmon, natto, miso soup, pickled vegetables, and rice, and I do not care what set you need to be at. You will not leave this house until you have finished every bit of it down to the last grain. Do you understand me? Fukuro-chan. The boy gulped as Mayu's voice telepathically rang out, each syllable etching its way into his head. He nodded. Yes, Pa-san. Mayu's face melted into a warm smile as she gave Fukuro a soft pat on the head. It's a bit warmer outside, she mused on her way out the door. Perhaps you won't need the hat? Fukuro glanced at the knit beanie carefully placed on his nightstand. He pursed his lips in thought, before deciding to slip it on. No, thank you. I'm comfortable. And that... You never know when the temperature can drop. Mayu paused in the doorway, before nodding and making her way to the kitchen. By the way, you were talking in your sleep again.
And for my next trick, I will land a double backflip and kick down that there coffee cart. Whoa, wait. Really? Kuro poked his head from behind the lens of his camera and eyed you incredulously. No? I couldn't do that even if I tried. I just wanted to say something interesting for your reel so it wasn't just a bunch of footage of me wandering around the empty lobby of a fashion agency. Kuro laughed as he closed the viewfinder and turned off the camera. No, wandering around is fine. It was a great excuse for me to play around with the manual focus on the lens. Hopefully it wasn't as difficult as adjusting the focus on my shivering shit show the other day. Now it was your turn to give an awkward laugh, which Kuro quickly, almost frantically, waved off. What? No, not at all. And don't worry about it.
It's literally my job.
Yeah, but I still feel bad. You were seconds away from literally getting eaten alive by Sindai for covering me and the mistakes I made because I was so nervous. I feel like everyone's judging my every move when I'm up there. And then I'm supposed to do the same thing live in front of the top 10 heroes of Japan, and I just...
You're not at fault for being nervous.
Kudo fumbled with his pockets as he spoke, fishing for the key card that let the two of you into the building and gave access to the elevators.
You were on stage by yourself in front of a whole production team and camera crew. Shivers or not, that's pretty impressive. And I don't mind covering for you. It's the least I could do for all the times you did the same for me back in school. Kudo finally produced the gold piece of plastic from his corduroys and opened the elevator for you before stepping in himself. It was about time for you both to get to the set of today's promo, an interview with a few hero bloggers on their predictions of the billboard. The information was both incredibly top secret and super out in the open. While no one at the agency, not even you, knew the exact placements of each hero, everyone had a good idea based on the events of the past year where the heroes would place and who might get added on or booted off the leaderboard. Please, Kudo. You leaned in. He shivered, leaning back, only breathing again when he realized you were just reaching to select the floor. Standing up for you back then is something any decent person would do. Those kids never knew what they were talking about. Always picking on you or spreading lies about your dad. Despite your close proximity, you couldn't pick up on the slight face twitch Kudo gave at the mention of his father. And it was just as rewarding for me too. There's something about punching shitheads in the face in front of all of their equally shitheady friends that just gives me so much power.
Kudo giggled. Actually giggled at that. And you found your face reddening at the unexpectedly adorable sound that came out of his lips. You could use that,
for when you're nervous on stage. Instead of thinking everyone is judging you, maybe they're giving you the strength you need to keep going. You're the MC, for crying out loud. If anything, this is your show, and everyone else is just in the background. And, if it helps, just know I'll be behind camera too, cheering you on the whole time. You know you should have leaned back by now. You'd already pressed the button, and the elevator was well on its way to the penthouse studio, but you felt safe and comforted by his presence. Thank you, Kudo, you whispered. I hope you're able to find something interesting from the footage you got. Kudo gave you a soft smile. Definitely. I'll, get a copy of the tapes to you this weekend. But really, I should be thanking you. The lobby has some really unique interior design, but with you at the foreground, it really brings the scene to life. I think it'd be kind of impossible to get boring footage with you as the subject. His voice had died down to a low, embarrassed mumble. Oh, I definitely agree.
The next thing you felt was your skull crashing into Kudo as you both scrambled to untangle yourselves and fell out of the elevator and onto the floor as Hawks, of all people, towered over you.
Hawks is here. No one said Hawks would be here. They know each other. Get off the floor. He's looking down on you. What would have happened if you weren't at the elevator door? You don't deserve to be in the same room as Hawks. Why are they so close? Are you an idiot? They hit their head on yours. Can't you see they're hurt?
Bleeding.
They're
dying.
Way too slow.
Check and see if they're okay. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Fukuro shifted from his tailbone into a crouching position, preparing to offer you his hand, only to be cut off by Hawks, who swiftly leaned down to help you up.
Once you were safely off the floor, he leaned down to help Fukuro up as well. Maybe it was Fukuro's mind playing tricks on him, or the way he noticed you glaring daggers into the back of the blonde's head. But the friendly smile Hawks gave the boy rubbed him the wrong way. Fukuro declined his offer with a polite smile of his own, before standing fully to exceed his height, towering about 4 inches taller than him. Fukuro would be lying if he said he didn't feel a slight twinge of satisfaction looking down upon the winged hero.
Before he could stop it, a snort escaped the boy's lips. He quickly silenced himself when the loud click-clack of stilettos echoed from around the corner.
"Ah, you're both here. Great," Sentai chirped. "Nese, Mirio Kamaro, I need you both in hair and makeup right now. There's been a slight change in plans. You will be interviewing Hawks this morning, and the footage will be hosted exclusively on the Hero Bloggers networks to help them with traffic."
"What?" you wailed, snapping your mouth shut when Sun shot you a dangerous glare. "I'm sorry. Do you have a problem with the changes I make for the shoot set in my studio housed in my agency which you work for?"
"Mediocre model." The way she sweetly used your normally derogatory nickname set an icy chill down your spine. "No, ma'am," you stuttered.
"Brilliant! I expect to see you two out in 10 minutes. You, the, giraffe owl boy." Fukuro looked around before pointing to himself. "Are you talking to me?" Sun let out an impatient sigh.
"Just who else would I be talking to?"
"Sorry, I wasn't sure." "Less apologizing, more walking. Come, I need to talk to you." "Places in 15, people!"
Thank you, 15.
Fukuro bit his lip as he awkwardly shuffled in the small woman's direction. He looked back at you. You flashed him a thumbs up. "What are you doing here?" you hissed from behind the dressing room curtain, where you peeled off your jacket to change into the set of clothes carefully chosen for you.
All Sentai originals, of course. Everything was a marketing ploy with that woman.
"Well, I'm supposed to be getting interviewed by you. But if you're gonna be using that tone, then I'm not sure how many people are gonna watch," he quipped back. You could hear the smugness in his voice, and it made your blood boil. What a load of cock-a-doodle bullshit! You took off your snow boots and chucked the chunky shoes above the curtains in hopes that they would hit the stupid bird child in the changing room next to you in his stupid bird head, except, ow! Your aim sucked. Like, really sucked. And they went flying in the opposite direction, whacking some poor intern instead. You squeaked out a shaky, "Sorry," and prayed they thought it was an accident. Sheesh. Hawk's incredulous tone came from the other side of the curtain. "That had to have been the worst throw I've seen in my entire life. And I've made appearances at preschools." That son of a... You took a sharp inhale before throwing open the curtains to give him a piece of your mind. "I'm surprised you'd make an appearance at a preschool. Or anywhere, for that matter, seeing how busy you are. Duty calls and whatnot." You placed your hands on your hips and puffed out your chest, feeling especially proud of yourself. You hoped he'd choke on the venom your words dripped in and died. You hoped he... Your fantasies of a poisoned Hawks on his knees begging you for dear life were interrupted as the man himself cleared his throat. What was his deal? He should be groveling right now, not... What was with that smirk on his face? What could possibly be so funny? There was a beat of silence before it finally clicked, as a cool breeze hit your body.
You'd given Hawks a piece of your mind, all right. You'd also given him a full view of you in your underwear.
You scrambled to grab the curtains and slide them shut once more. Nice going, you half-naked idiot! You were trying to be serious, and all you did was make him cackle like a madman! It's not funny! You tried not to whine, you really, really did. But the way your flushed cheeks puffed up and your lips pursed into a pout, you couldn't help but sound like a child. I never said it was funny.
Takami!
You slapped the curtain in a last-ditch effort to get him to shut up. To your surprise, the laughter quickly died down. You couldn't see it through the curtains, but a soft smile played on Takami's lips. "Hey," he said, in a tone that made a shiver run down your spine. You two may have been in separate changing rooms, but you could have swore you felt his breath tickle your ear. What? You tried not to sound too shaken up, and turned your attention towards dressing as quickly as possible, so you could forget about the way his half-buttoned shirt hung off his toned frame when you'd pulled open the curtains, or whether or not he was eyeing you up and down when he saw you. No. Instead, you focused on securing the metal clasp of the wine-colored blazer and straightening your narrow pant legs. I really would have been at that preschool, you know. Takami paused to listen for your response. But when he heard nothing, not even the previous rustling of clothing from the other side of the curtain, he took that as a sign to keep going. I'd also be at a shoot for a brand deal, a taping for some random product or promotion, a burning building, town square, out of the city, out of the country, places I can't even tell you about. He had lowered his voice to a whisper so delicate that you had to lean into the curtain to hear him. You were surprised to feel the firmness of his body pressed against yours through the fabric. Trust me, I'd rather sleep in or order takeout directly to my house and stuff my face with spicy nuggets while watching movies all day, and Takami's voice stumbled to a halt. You waited with bated breath. He opened and closed his mouth, silently mouthing words, trying to find which ones tasted right on his tongue before he spoke again. I'd have a much better time if you— In what world does 15 minutes mean 15 millenniums? Are you both toddlers? Do you two still need your mothers to dress you? Let's go! I need you out in 5, and that's me being generous. You stuttered out a sloppy, thank you, 5, before scrambling to throw on your shoes and the accompanying accessories. He'd have a much better time if you... What? Just what were you two? You threw open the curtains once more, not bothering to hide the desperation in your eyes as you stared the man down. He took his time adjusting the gold watch that shimmered on his wrist, before flashing you a sly smile. Wow, you clean up nice, doll. His tone seemed more plastic in comparison to the way he'd spoken just minutes ago. You tried to search his eyes for even a hint of what you'd heard, for some kind of answer, but they seemed to dance with yours, ducking and dodging every silent poke and prod. Oh, by the way... Yes? You had to clear your throat to play off how quickly you'd answered him. Come on, Hawks. If you're so fast, then hurry up with it! What were you trying to say? You should say my name like that more often. You're not yourself. That was the first thing Fukuro thought when he saw you through the screen of his viewfinder. As you and Hawks bantered back and forth about which hero would rank where and whether or not Hawks would actually place number 1 this year, he couldn't help but notice how your smile wasn't as bright as it was before. It seemed dulled by those blinding wings. He didn't like how the two of you matched in varying shades of red. He decided it wasn't your color. What did Hawks say to you while you were in that dressing room? What did he do? Fukuro found himself focusing on you, getting your most flattering angles. Never mind the winged hero. He had footage upon footage all over the media. On top of the commercial ads, he had action shots, news coverage of him in flight, using those wings of his to enact violence. He's capable of more than he lets on. He's dangerous. You must protect them before he kills them! Ah, shit! You and Hawks glanced in Fukuro's direction as he lost his grip on the camera to clutch his head. He coughed and ducked down to, adjust the thing on the bottom of the thing. While he was crouched on the ground, he figured it wouldn't hurt to pluck the old camera out of his bag and have it rolling off to the side, just to get a few more test shots. He felt a wave of relief wash over him as you two continued, and prayed none of his foolish actions were picked up by the mics. God, that was so embarrassing! He slowly picked himself back up and adjusted the focus on his lens to find you staring directly at him. Or was it the camera? There did seem to be a hint of what he registered as concern in your eyes. Now it was his turn to flash you a thumbs up, informing you that he was okay and to continue on with the shoot. You smiled, a real smile, before turning to talk to Hawks once more. Hawks may have had all the action shots, and was definitely more popular than you. But Fukuro was going to do everything in his power to make sure that while he was manning the camera, you got the spotlight you deserved. All right. Give it to me straight. And I want you to be completely honest here. Am I an idiot?
Oof. That sounds like a loaded question, and I'm not sure if I should be the one answering that.
You let out a strangled groan as you felt your muscles slack in defeat. You'd been staring at the ceiling for the past 20 minutes, your recent interview with Hawks playing on loop in the background like some sort of anti-lullaby, forcing you to relive the half-hour session over and over again. Even in the ambiance, you could still pick up the subtle change of intonation in the man's voice. The way it rose when you said something that piqued his interest, before taking a drastic dive as he muttered something just loud enough for the mics to pick up. Something like, I think this is the first time we've been on camera together without a script. Does this mean all the stuff I used to whisper in your ears I can say out loud? You didn't need to look at the screen at this point. You'd already memorized the way the winged hero leaned in, propping his elbows up on his knees and his chin on his hands, which were folded over one another. The way his brow quirked upwards as he tilted his head to the side, feigning innocence. Pfft. Yeah, right. The only thing he was innocent of was not being a butt. Because he was a butt. Nice.
Hey, did you want my feedback still, or have I successfully dodged that question?
Oh, crap, right! You'd been so caught up in your own Hawks-induced daydream that you'd forgotten you were on the phone with your agent's secretary turned friend. No, Hyungji, you have not dodged the question. I need to know if I've taken a big bite of idiot sandwich by—
Trying to date Japan's number 2 pro hero.
Hyungji deadpanned. No, what? I'm not trying to date Japan's number 2 pro hero. I'm just
trying to figure out if he wants to date you.
You bit your lip. Was that what you were trying to do? You weren't quite sure. Somewhere between the private car rides and secluded dinner outings, you'd kind of forgotten what you were doing with Takami. And just 4 days ago, you'd gotten so close to finally getting an answer before he completely blew you off, giving you a case of whiplash so severe it made your head snap off your shoulders and roll into a ditch, where you now wanted to spend the rest of forever. If you were lucky, perhaps someone could pick you up and you could start your new modeling career as a department store hat mannequin. So the case still remained. Were you, this mystery model, who was just now moving from cheap snack commercials and catalog shoots to a project that might make people remember your real name for once, an idiot for thinking that maybe, just maybe, the second-ranked hero in the entire country might be slightly interested in you? You chose your next few words carefully. Would I be an even bigger idiot for hoping that he was? Hyungji hummed.
Okay, well, let's not get too angsty about this. There's tons of high-profile heroes who are in a relationship.
Yeah, with other high-profile heroes. You should probably sit up before you choked on the skepticism that dripped off your words.
That's not 100% true. I'm pretty sure I heard a rumor about that red kid. You know, the one who never wears a shirt. He might, maybe be high school sweethearts with someone who works a few blocks from Fat Gum's agency. All the hero forums are predicting he might make the top 10 this year after that fire incident. As a matter of fact, who is that person?
You could hear the phone vibrate on the other end as Hyungji began to frantically type.
If he winds up making it into the top 10, I want to send them an outfit to wear to the event.
You rolled your eyes. You're on vacation. Aren't you not supposed to be working?
I'm not working.
Hyungji countered.
I'm simply proving a point. That dating a pro hero as a non-pro hero isn't as impossible as you might think.
You paused before finally shifting into a proper seated position on your couch. Okay. So you're saying I'm not an idiot, you said cautiously.
Now hold on, I didn't say all that.
And back to staring at the ceiling you went.
You're not an idiot for having feelings for Hawks, and you're not a bigger idiot for hoping that he returns those feelings. But we start to enter a gray area when you guys start dancing around your feelings like you've been doing for the past few months.
Her last statement caused you to shoot up in your seat once more. Excuse me? I am not dancing around my feelings. Hyungji snorted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, really!
Do you want to go out with Hawks right now, yes or no?
The, strange gurgling sound that escaped your throat was all Hyungji needed to answer that question.
And if I'm not mistaken,
Hyungji continued,
was there ever a point in the whole dressing room debacle you were telling me about in which you blatantly asked him what your relationship was?
You opened and closed your mouth. Well, if you didn't feel like an idiot before, then...
I'm just saying, you can't expect someone to have the answer to a question you haven't even asked yet.
Shit. How did she... Shit!
Well... Hyungji said, after taking a respectful moment of silence for your life she had just wrecked.
It's sounding pretty dead on your end of the line, and I am on vacation, so... Right. Sorry, you stammered. No, it's no problem. I don't mind talking with you. Well, yeah, but... You spazzed your hands about as the feeling of, I just unloaded my burdens on an unsuspecting person and now I too have become a burden. I'm sorry. Took over your being. You're supposed to be at the beach with your girlfriend, and here I am rambling about... hawks. Your voice faltered as your phone began to vibrate. What was that? Hyungji asked. You got all quiet at the end there. Hyungji? I gotta go. Yeah, you did have to go. Because right now, on the other line, was the man of the hour. Yes, sir! It's time for Hawks! It's me, lilspacefreckles. Wow, how exciting to be here. I'm boiling alive in this closet. I flinched because I thought maybe there was a bug or a ghost crawling down my back or something, but nope! It was just my sweat! I can't have a fan on in here because I'm recording, so I just kind of have to die, which is fine. Please understand the lengths that are taken to make this content for you all. It's not done in vain. I love you all, but oh my god, I'm dying. I've never felt so gross and sticky in my entire life, and I've worked with kindergartners. You swiftly swiped opened your phone book for him to enter the contract. The contract? Wait, the what? Enter your number into my phone and sign the contract. You are now my demon butler. Sebastian! Why were you in the back seat of a Bugatti doing just that? I woke up in a new Bugatti! That's the only reason I put that in the story. Noodle 57 was a tiny noodle that I know in the hand he offered, littered with shade. Was that why he ordered for the words? I'm an international super spy. I was wondering if I could do a few test shots with you next Tuesday, a couple of hours before... Can't breathe. Just what were you two? We are farmers. Bum ba-dum bum 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 bum. He took his time, adjusting the gold watch that shimmered on his wrist. On his woo. Okay, this entire scene is coming from that piece of art in which Hawks is drawn like he's on the cover of a magazine and he's modeling this bomb-ass watch, looking like the beautiful man he is. Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Nah, he doesn't have that type of rage. Every single episode, we'll take a poll and see, are you Team Hawks or Team Fukuro? Because as of right now, I'm Team Fukuro because, you know, Hawks in this chapter is a little... Duty calls. What a load of cock-a-doodle bullshit! Sheesh. Hey. Trying to pate? You trying to pate Hawks? What does pate even mean? P-A-T-E? Pate. That's just a ground up thing of meat. It's like a sandwich spread. Are you trying to sandwich spread Hawks?
What the hell is even that?
The next thing you felt was your skull crashing onto the floor. Oh shit, ow. Fun fact, I'm actually really bad at old people voices. Shunnabar! Hello, Shunnabar. It's not my forte. Any and all spit takes that are ever done on this channel are all absolutely 100% real spit take, in which I, lilspacefreckles, stand in my closet with a bottle of water and spit out actual water all over the place. There is 100% commitment in here. We strive to give you the best possible quality on this We strive to give you quality content on this channel. I I think that was actually beautiful. Make sure you're hydrated, friends.